listen, we're gonna get now. Now I see Harvey, and he's here. Harvey, what's up,
I'm,
brother?
I'm good, Billy. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. And I
Good,
appreciate
good.
you joining us.
Sure.
I really think you've evolved into one of the best referees in the sport. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. This first one, before I get into some really good stuff, and don't worry, you're not going to get in any trouble for this interview. But,
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to give you the easy question that everybody asks. What got you in where you wanted to become a boxing referee? What made you decide to become a boxing referee?
Well, I was into the sport. I did some amateur boxing. I won the Golden Gloves in New Jersey in '94, and it wasn't too long after that I had to make on what I was going to do following my amateur career. And I mean, quite honestly, I knew I wasn't quite good enough to reach the pinnacles of the sport. So the next best was to stay involved with it, and officiating just seemed like a natural next step for me. So yeah, that's really it in a nutshell. I reached the end of where I could go in the amateurs, and it was time to turn pro or do something else. And something else for me was officiating. So I've been loving it ever since.
I tell you what, being a referee, at least generally, you don't get punched back. But hey, I will say this.
That's
When
true.
I talk to people that fought in the amateurs, when you fought in the amateurs in states like New York and New Jersey and Chicago, I mean, that's pretty tough opposition compared to some of the other states that don't have any amateurs. So you don't slight yourself, but um. So here's the thing, and this was
Yep.
one of the biggest reasons I reached out and wanted you on first. Last week, you refereed the Callum Walsh and Fernando Vargas Jr. fight, and
Right.
I thought you did, as usual, a great job. And
Thank you.
don't take this wrong, because I want your
Right.
opinion on it. But I've always said that the best referees are the referees in a fight that you don't remember who the referee was. And the reason why I say that is because it's not fighter A versus fighter B featuring referee so-and-so. It's not
Right.
like that, and
Right.
that's why I like the way you referee. When you have to get involved, you get involved. When you don't, you let the fighters fight. You're not a camera hog like some of the other referees. What's your thoughts on that?
Uh, not a lot of thoughts. I mean, I just do what I do. I mean, I've had really good teachers. Uh, Larry Hazard has mentored
My man, Larry. I,
all
I
of us.
knew. I love Larry Has. He's. I'm going to get him on. But anyway, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's okay. So he's mentored everyone from the East Coast, but my hands-on teachers from the amateurs were Benji Estevez and David Fields. So they poured a lot into me, and I absorbed those teachings well over the years. So I mean, whatever you see from me is probably just a reflection of what I've learned from those guys. So I don't have any specific, details that tell me to do this or don't do that. I've just paid attention to great teachers, and I still get great teaching. Like I said, Larry Hazard mentors me and everyone else on the East Coast to this day. So yeah, it's just a matter of paying attention to the process, and it never ends. To be honest with you, because you can have bouts after you've been doing this over 20, 30 years and still screw something up. And the best thing about being here in New Jersey is that if you do screw something up, you know Mr. Hazard is going to let you know about it.
Yeah. Well, he runs a tight ship, but that's why it's one of the best commissions.
Absolutely.
I know you've been all over the world refereeing and stuff. In your opinion, what was the craziest bout that you ever had a referee?
Probably the Ryan Garcia Devin Haney fight. That was a little wacky. That was a little that's probably where I received the most criticism Actually, I probably received more criticism from that fight than my entire career combined. So that was a little wacky that night. But other than that, not too many other crazy, un out of the ordinary circumstances that have come up in my career.
You mentioned that fight. It's like we're still going through craziness with that fight. I mean, the Haney team just won't let it go. But anyway, you got to this past July, you got to ref one of the Katie Taylor Amanda Serrano fights. What was your thoughts on that?
Uh, good series. Great for women's boxing. The match that I did wasn't quite as barbaric as the first two fights, and uh, and when I say barbaric, I mean that in a complimentary way. Those two young women, they went at it in those first two fights, in a very entertaining way is probably the best way to say it. So they they didn't have that level of excitement in the match that I did, but overall, that those fights were phenomenal, and I think they did a lot for women's boxing. You can tell by all the fans that showed up. So it was an entertaining fight, but more so it was an entertaining evening. It was an all women's card, and they did great numbers. So yeah, my thoughts are very positive on what they gave us, what they produced. Tremendous, both of them.
You used a word that's a great segue for my next question. You used the
Okay.
word barbaric. You refereed both of the Tim Tszyu Sebastian Fedora fights this past July, and the first one in March of last year, which was a bloodbath. And I got to be honest, I was shocked, and I don't even remember what the rule was. If I'm pretty sure that the ringside physician had to stop that fight. Was the only one that could stop the fight. I never saw so much blood in my life. Okay, you were covered with blood. I mean, I was watching from TV. I was getting covered with blood. I can't believe that they didn't stop that fight. I mean,
Right.
the not only was the blood flowing in his eye, it was like a hose was hooked to his head. I just, what's your thoughts on that? I mean, what was going through your mind during the fight? I know what was going through my mind as I'm watching the fight. I couldn't
Right.
imagine what was going through yours in the ring with them.
Yeah, well, there were quite a few rounds where there was just a consultation between me and the doctor. We check in with the fighter in between rounds with his corner. They were all on board. I think what we took into account was that Zoo, although he came up short that night, was still fighting back with all of the blood that you mentioned. Yeah, it was a lot of blood. I've never been involved in a fight that bloody, but but yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where if the fight is willing and and it's deemed that he can still see, then we have to give him the chance to keep going. Uh, my thoughts, I try to keep it as neutral as possible and just continue to go through round after round doing my observations and having consultations with our ringside physicians and taking my cue from him, taking my cue from the fight and taking my cue from the cornerman. And they were warriors. They wanted to keep going, and we allowed them to go.
Sometimes the corners are more warrior than the fighter should be. I mean, I've always looked at it like, that's their job to make the decision, and
Right.
it was a bloody fight. It was definitely a bloody fight. With that said, what in your opinion, what was the best fight you ever refereed that when the night was over, you just, you were able to say to yourself, damn, that was a great fight that I was part of.
It's a good question. I think one that comes to mind immediately is Leo Santa Cruz and Carl Frampton. They had two fights. The first fight was in New York, and they basically just stood toe to toe and gave you uh, back and forth nonstop action for 12 rounds. That was probably the best fight I've had to be a part of. They were That was sensational what those two guys gave, and then they had a rematch, maybe a little less than a year later, in Ireland, and Carl Frampton's hometown. But yeah, the first fight was in New York, and it was fantastic. And for your listeners, if they haven't seen that fight, I would say go check that fight out. Check it out. Leo Santa Cruz versus Carl Frampton. Great fight.
And they were both at the peak of their careers in that first fight.
Yes,
There's no question.
yes,
Yeah, no,
they were.
I'm
Yes,
glad you reminded me of that fight. That's good. This last thing is more of a like a boxing thing, and I've been talking about it on today's show. My opinion is boxing today is nothing like it was in previous eras, and I think despite the potential of us having, in my opinion, we could have the greatest fighters of all time right now because of the nutrition advances and the training methods and the added benefit of all the video and footage we could obtain to prepare for fights. um, you know it seems to me that a lot of fighters always opt for the easiest way out for the
mm,
biggest gain until Crawford stepped in the ring with Canelo and
right.
showed the boxing world, that there's more to it than just, keeping your O intact. I mean, he put it all on the line. In your opinion, do you think, and I've been talking about this all day now, do you think that this fight, specifically by Terrence Crawford, will inspire some of the younger fighters or even promoters and managers to challenge their fighter or themselves, if they're the fighter, thinking to do what Terrence Crawford did? And I don't mean move up 3 weight classes. I mean
Right.
just go after the next guy that somebody's saying is better, instead of just, talking smack on social media.
Yeah, you know what? I think I see your point. I think with these guys, I think they're motivated. Most of them are motivated by the finances that come with it. So I think you may start to see more of the matches you want to see, being that you have these promoters that are pouring a lot of money into the sport now. So they're starting to make some of the matches that we've wanted to see for years, and they're finally starting to get made. It, I think if they're fairly compensated, I think you'll see more guys taking chances. And by no means am I saying that that's what prompted Crawford and Canelo to fight one another. I'm not saying that. I'm What I'm saying more so is that the guys that make these decisions from the business point of view, if both sides feel that they can compensate their fighters, I think you'll see guys get things done. I think besides the finances, what's been a problem in recent years is promoters just don't do business with one another. And you've had this promoter won't do business with that promoter, and you know I think it's been more of guys staying in their playing in their own playground as opposed to just not wanting to fight. But I think if you can get these promoters to start doing business with one another, I think we can get more fights along those lines, like Crawford and Canelo.
You know,
I think it's more business than the fighters just being reluctant. I mean, yeah, there certainly are going to be fighters that are reluctant, but I tend to look at it more from a business standpoint, and the powers that be have to say, okay, we're going to take a chance, but we're being compensated, so it's worth the chance.
no, no. Listen, I agree with you 100%. I have always said it's not the fighter, because the fighter themselves, to be a fighter, I mean, that's your makeup. You're not afraid
Right.
to fight somebody else, but the money obviously comes into it. And I think you're 100% right with the promoters not wanting to play nice with each other. And I blame the UFC's success on that, where they were able to create a league. And I think for the last 10 years now, a lot of these promoters have decided to try to keep it within their own world, because in their mind it's like a league. You know what I mean?
Right.
Why you go out. So then you add a guy like Turki Al-Rashid, who seems to be helping the cause a little bit by opening up his pocketbook. But I kind of look at that sometimes as a negative too. And I'll tell you why. The boxing has always had a tendency to follow the money, right? I mean, you could go back 100 years and it was the same. I mean, money drives the fight. I mean, it's called prize fighting for a reason, And what happens in boxing, what I see, is that promoters become lazy. So if you get a guy that's willing to open up a checkbook, everybody starts to depend on him. Now, what happens if all of a sudden he decides he doesn't want to do boxing anymore? He has another interest. He wants to be golf, And what happens to boxing? He could leave us in a very bad state. So I think that it's important that promoters don't all just rely on him, that they start stepping up to the plate themselves. I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, no, I agree. The promoters definitely have to do their jobs as well. As you say that, I think back to that Super Six tournament that Andre Ward was a part of so many years ago, when all those different promoters had to work together, and somehow, some way, that is a rarity in the sport. But somehow they all decided to work together and get things done. I would like to see more of that, where these guys work together, and you can produce a lot of great fights, and the loser doesn't really lose based on how he loses. So I think you're right in that you do put yourself in a precarious position if you're dependent on one person to solve so many different issues. But yeah, if they can start working together like they did for that Super Six tournament, I think I think boxing will be in a much better position.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. And finally, I also think that some of the blame is the fans. And the reason why I say that is they've put so much value in the O that the promoters and managers and, now I guess streaming companies, they feel they can't promote a fight unless a fighter has an O, or worse, if a fighter gets that loss, that the value goes down. I mean, these super fighters prove that they're not susceptible to that, like Canelo Alvarez. His value certainly did not go down after losing. Do you think that can turn around? Do we need the fan to support that, or do we need, the marketing of a fighter different? I mean, what's your thoughts on the value of the O?
I agree that the O is so rare. You're only talking about a handful of fighters throughout history that have been champions and retired undefeated. There's only a handful of them. So obviously that's not the end all be all. The greatest of the greatest fighters have all suffered losses. I mean, what do you have in the modern era? You're talking about Mayweather, Ricardo Lopez, Rocky Marciano. But after that, everyone has taken losses. So what have we been promoting before the Mayweather fight? I mean, if you put on a good fight, win, lose, or draw, fans are going to want to come see you. So yeah, maybe that is a problem with the promoters and how they promote. Because look, Arturo Gatti, he may not have been the all-time best fighter in his weight class, but man, was he popular. When he fought win, lose, or draw, you knew you were getting a fight, and he had a tremendous fan base. So yeah, it's not all about the zero. And you're right. I don't know how the best way to promote these guys are. I mean, that's for the promoters to figure out. But when you have guys that put it all on the line, people are going to want to come see you. And Gotti's just one of a lot of examples. You can't define a fighter's worth merely by wins and losses, because
I
you can pad a record and get a guy to be 50, 60, 70 and 0, and he hasn't fought anybody. But then you can have
exactly.
somebody who has 3, 4, 5, maybe even 10 losses, but you want to see that guy because you know he's going to put on the show.
100%. I couldn't have said it better. And you mentioned Arturo Gotti. Yeah, we need another one of him. We need another Boom Boom Mancini. We need those
Oh
kind of
yeah.
fighters. You know what I mean? I mean,
Oh yeah.
and you're right. I just think that somewhere along the line, a promoter feels he can't promote a fighter if he loses, or they coddle him, like you said. The people who they're fighting aren't great. Then all of a sudden they get in the ring with somebody good, they lose, and then they kick them to the curb, which isn't fair to the
Right.
fighter either. But
Yeah.
anyway, listen, man, I think that we're in a resurgence right now, and I think
Yeah.
that the Crawford Canelo fight really added to that. So we were heading in the right direction to begin with, and time will tell. Hopefully we'll get some more fights, and hopefully we'll get to see Harvey Doc being the third man in the ring, because there's not many better than you. That's for sure, my man.
Thank you, Billy. I appreciate that. And
And I and
yeah,
and
I
I,
mean,
I appreciate you coming on, man. I really do.
yeah. Yeah, anytime, Billy. You're my guy. Anytime you want me, you just let me know.
Okay,
And
well, don't be surprised if you're hearing from me sooner than you think. But
okay.
hey, listen, I appreciate your time, and
Yes,
if
sir.
you see my man Larry, tell him I'm hunting him down. He's coming. He's going to be coming on too soon. All right.
Will do. Will
All right,
do.
brother. You have a good one.
Thanks, Billy. You too.
Take care.